Bring in Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, sir.
Morning,
Your
Maria.
reaction to
Thank
that
you.
latest number in the polls?
Well, there's two things we have to consider regarding that poll. First, the Democrats have been pillaring Mr. Trump hard with all sorts of issues that are going to damage his credibility. I think that's what they're trying to do. Secondly, as much as I think people would tend to give someone the benefit of the doubt, Ms. Trump has no record. While I'll give Ms. Clinton this, her record is there and it's all bad. One of those things is at least she's been there, and I'm not sure if that's a good way of thinking or not. The bottom line to me is Mr. Trump's going to have to do far better regarding raising these numbers by trying to show who he's going to pick to manage those programs, who he's going to be basically have the Secretary of Defense, who he's going to have as the folks who are actually managing those programs, because he doesn't have a record. Ms. Clinton, on the other hand, has to overcome a lot of headwinds, as you mentioned before, regarding some of the issues that dog her, such as Benghazi, such as the Russian reset, such as the North Korean debacle, the North Koreans which supposedly negotiated away their nuclear program, and here it is back again.
Yeah, that could be one way, actually, he gets out of this slump that he's in right now. If he announces a credible team of people around him. Can he do it?
I don't, because, you know, the nuclear thing is this larger issue of being baited with a tweet. People don't trust him. He gets so angry. He flies off so quickly. I don't know if he can really change that at this point. So maybe if he turns to someone else.
He has to change it, though. Like, he can't keep insulting people like he's 11 years old.
It's not going to work.
He absolutely does. Especially people that he needs, like Paul Ryan, going after, endorsing his opponent. I just feel like he needs to get beyond the ego thing, because this is not necessary, and it's clearly affecting him negatively.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
Colonel, who would you, Secretary of Defense, name somebody. Go. Who would be a good Secretary of Defense for Donald Trump?
Well, look, I'm going to name my friend Mike Flynn. I mean, Lieutenant General Flynn, I think, is a former director of DIA, knows a lot of what goes on. He's a friend of mine, so I think he'd be a perfect guy. But I think more importantly, he knows the depth. Well, and he's always a supporter. Yeah. And I think there's a handful of other folks who I think would be also equally well. I mean, look, I would look to the Reagan bench, who during the Cold War, one of my dear friends and mentors is Bud McFarland. Unfortunately, they're all getting in their 80s and stuff, but I think that you need to look at people, Maria, who actually had success during the time they were in. Let's face it, the current crew, like this deal with Iran, the $400 million, that's just one of a number of debacles. So what you need to look at a bench which actually had winners on it, not a bench who had losers on it. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the threat of the Islamic State is a major factor, continues to be a factor in the 2016 election. Yesterday, Nicholas Young, this is a 36-year-old D.C. Metro Transit officer. He was charged with attempting to provide material support to ISIS. And then we've got the stabbing in London this morning, officials saying that they have not ruled out terrorism. Is the Obama administration doing enough to combat the threat of terrorism and ISIS overseas and at home?
No, not at all. I've actually did a exercise recently, a red teaming exercise, where I actually walked through how ISIS would do an attack against a major facility here in Washington. And the fact that I could walk through, Maria, and show them how exactly, if I had a four-man teenage team of ISIS terror, how I could take down a facility. And I'm just telling you that they're not taking it seriously. People behind the scenes are trying to push people like me to actually make real assessments about what could be threatened. And that's the tactical level. The strategic level, we still are not ahead of them. We have not got a handle on their banking. We have not got a handle on who they're putting into the refugee pipeline. And for goodness sake, we know for a fact that they're doing reconnaissance here in the United States. So they have not done everything we can. We need a global approach, a global policy, not one which we go defeat them on the ground in Iraq and hope for the best globally.
And there's not a plan on the other side either. I mean, Hillary Clinton keeps saying that she wants more intelligence. Why we don't have the intelligence that she's talking about right now is beyond me.
Right. Her proposals, even if you go to her website, are so vague in terms of what she's going to do. Again, it's just the same.
Things that nobody can really disagree with. No one's going to say more intelligence. No, we don't. No, we don't want more intelligence.
One thing we know for certain is we can't continue the way it's been handled for the last 8 years. It's not working. We need to change it. We need to address it. And I think that really plays to Donald Trump's hand. So I'm surprised the poll numbers are split there regarding national security, because to me that's one of the areas where he clearly is stronger and is something we need and should focus on.
Yeah, but it's interesting looking at these polls where they're on the same level with terrorism. I'm just asking the question rather than answering it. But again, if people feel like he is erratic, does that then hurt their opinion on a specific issue like that?
Yeah.
Does perception of his personality hurt him issue by issue? He's still strongest on the economy.
Right. But it's true, because people question, well, why is he flying off the handle over this? And why is he focused on that when, in fact, we know this is the issue? And we know Hillary Clinton has a lot of things, you know, around her to poke in, and he's not doing it, Colonel.
Oh, I think the bottom line is that you've got to understand that the terror issue, for example, is something that you can't simply say, I'm going to do more intelligence and resolve it. You've got to have a plan of execution. And let's face it, Ms. Clinton has already had her chance. She was already there. And the Obama administration, one of my other friends is Jim Woolsey. Jim's talked to me about some of the issues that currently CIA faces. CIA is not being as aggressive as it was during the time he was director of CIA under Bill Clinton.
Right.
So if you aren't doing the things you must do to be effective, then I think I would go with Donald Trump over Ms. Clinton, because I think he will go through, and I think he will be true to what he's saying, to be much more aggressive, not only doing real intelligence collection, but actually pursuing a terrorist globally.
Yeah, and then there's the FBI, which some people are charging has gotten politicized.